Right, couch stretch. This is called the couch stretch. This is good for your quad hip flexor. So I'm hands and knees, and I'm just gonna drag one knee down, put it on the ground. So the closer my knee is to the wall, the more intense the stretch is gonna be. So if you feel like your hips are fairly unflexible, start with your knee further away from the wall. So I got the foot on the wall and the knee is on the ground. I'm just gonna step up with my opposite leg here, and then if you're really inflexible, you might have to just stay here. But what you want to do now is squeeze that glute of the knee on the ground and kind of push your hips forward. So if you have more flexibility, you'll be able to come up like this. And again, I'm going to squeeze this glute of this knee that's on the ground and like push my hips forward and just stay here. And you can, and again, any kind of stretch that you do, you want to hold for a minimum, absolute minimum of 30 seconds. Holding for less time is, you're not going to get any benefits of it. So again, the more flexible you get, the closer you'll be able to get your knee to the wall. But still, the most important thing is to squeeze that back glute and push the hips forward regardless of where your flexibility is now. And you'll feel this through the quad and the hip flexors. This will stretch, you know, your rectus femoris in your quad, your iliacus in your hip, also your psoas, just by arching the lower back and pushing the hip forward. So that lower back hip muscle. So very good stretch, again, called the couch stretch. When you're done, just go back down to the ground and then you can switch legs, right? And same thing on the other side. Step up, come up, and again, most importantly, squeeze your glute and push your hip forward, and you'll feel the stretch happen through your quad and hip flexor. Some people more in the hip, some people more in the quad, but it's all good. It's all good for you. So again, the couch stretch, or just the pancake. So I'm just gonna spread my legs as far apart as I can. I like to push myself on the ground to kind of create more stretch through my adductors and groin. And if you have tight hamstrings, you'll also feel it on the bottom of your legs and your hamstrings. Just a great stretch. I don't really want to bend forward, but if you have to, due to your flexibility, that's totally fine. But you'll get a better stretch if you kind of keep your back straight and just kind of hinge forward. So if you're not totally straight, it's fine. Just do what works for you. And as you can see, I'm kind of using my hands to like push myself forward. This is just increasing my stretch through my groin and adductors. So very good stretch. You'll also feel your hamstrings if your hamstrings are tight. So I'm kind of just like hinging forward, and it's okay to bend, you know, as long as you're feeling a stretch through everything, just do what you can, okay? So then this pancake stretch, I'll do a lateral stretch from here, and this is great for your hip and side body, your obliques, TFL, those kinds of things, your quadrilateral lumborum in your lower back that attaches into your floating ribs, into your pelvis. So good to get the side body stretched out here. Again, holding for a minimum of 30 seconds on each side, and again, just go to the other side. So pancake variations, but you can also just like reach out and just get what you can. So it's all good. You know, if you feel like you're really tight, you know, maybe just grab your legs and kind of pull yourself forward, that works. So from there, I like to get a calf stretch, and this is my favorite calf stretch. So I'll do this kind of like runner's position here. So what I like to do, if you don't have the initial flexibility to reach your foot, you'll have to do a different calf stretch, but I'll show that next. But I think this is the best calf stretch because I can fully relax my lower leg because I'm manipulating my foot to stretch my calf with my hands. So what I'll do is just grab the ball of my foot and I'm pulling my toes back toward my shin or towards me. And I'm just gonna hold it. And I really, really feel like a good calf stretch in that gastrocnemius through my upper lower leg. And I'm just holding. So I'm really applying tension, pulling my toes back toward me at the ball of the foot. And this is a great calf stretch. So again, minimum of 30 seconds on each stretch, but maximum as long as you can stand it. And again, I'll just go to the other side. So really pulling that back. If you have really tight hamstrings and really tight back or hips, glutes, you might not be able to get to your foot. But again, this is my favorite calf stretch. I feel like I get the most benefit out of it. If you can just get it with one hand, that's fine. But I feel like two, I'm getting all that tension. Really great calf stretch, especially if you're doing a lot of striking or a runner, you really need to take care of your calf and flexibility. That will keep your knees healthy and your ankles and feet healthy to keep your calves loose. But let's say you cannot reach your own foot, okay? So I'm just gonna do this wall calf stretch. So 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. I'm focusing on the back leg, and I'm gonna press that back leg heel into the ground. Like I'm pushing the heel into the ground, keeping the knees straight, and then I'm gonna kind of like, maybe like I'm doing a little bit of a push up to the wall, get my head closer. But the most important thing is that I'm pressing my heel into the ground, and I can feel that stretching my calf. So I'm just leaning forward into my toes, but still applying pressure into the ground with my heel. That's gonna give me a really good calf stretch. So again, just holding, and you know, if you're inflexible and this feels really intense, you know, you might only be able to go here. But again, whatever you can get, whatever range you can get, make sure you're just pressing your heel into the ground the whole time. Again, you'll do both sides, obviously. Make sure your toes are pointing forward as well, so they're not like turned out to the side. You won't really get a calf stretch like that, or a very minimal calf stretch, okay? So again, I'm pressing my heel into the ground of that back leg and like leaning forward to increase the stretch in the calf. So this is a perfectly good calf stretch, but I like the one on the floor better. I feel like I get more flexibility out of this. But stretch your calves, so, and it will relieve a lot of tension in your hips and your lower back from doing this. So I'm just gonna I'm keeping my other knee on the ground, and I'm just keeping my back pretty straight, so I'm not bending forward, because I actually don't feel a stretch when I bend forward. So I want to keep my back straight as much as possible, and I'm just letting gravity do the work. I just did a workout, so my hips are all fired up and tight. But what's going to happen over time is that as I just hold the stretch, my knee will start falling down to the ground as those hip glute muscles like begin to loosen up. So this is, again, great stretch if you're feeling a lot of lower back tension or like hip problems, even knee problems. It could be due to just tight hip and glute muscles. So this is a great stretch to do that. I'm just using my hands to kind of stabilize or hold on to the bench. Yeah, my right hip is really tight today. But one other thing, if you want to come closer, really important in this stretch is that my knee is in line with my heel here, okay? So what that means is that my heel is not closer to me and my knee out further, okay? Because that is gonna misalign my muscles, so I'm not actually targeting my hip muscles here. So this bench kneeling pigeon stretch I really like. And again, my hips are tight right now, but so just be careful coming out of it. And you can find whatever, you know, a taller person is gonna need something probably a little bit higher or lower, but and you'll see my left hip is just way more flexible here. Yeah, my right one was really tight. This feels a little bit tight, but I'm sure after a couple minutes my knee would be on the bench. But again, don't force anything and try to keep your back straight, because that'll isolate those hip muscles to really stretch out. Very good stretch. But let me show you a variation. Let's say you can't do that, or you're just so inflexible, or you don't have a bench or a countertop or a bed or something that's at the right height. There's one that's a little less intense. So same thing, it's gonna stretch the same muscles, but a little less intense. So look, I'm sitting close to the ground. My knees should be at like a 90-degree angle. I'm just gonna pull, so I get my ankle on top of my thigh like this. I'm just gonna lay to the ground, so I don't wanna be here. And I use my hands to like push that knee toward the wall, okay? So if you're so tight that you can't put your lower back to the ground, you need to move further away from the wall, okay? Because that means your hips are just really tight, but that's okay. Just don't hurt yourself, but make sure that your hips are on the ground, and just go from there. And so you can one arm or two arms, whatever, but just extend and push the knee away, and you'll feel all these hip muscles and your glutes. But if you have more flexibility, get closer to the wall. And again, but you should be able to like lay this back on the ground and then push the knee away. So that's a good variation if you feel like you're pretty inflexible. It's a good way to like ease into this kind of hip stretch. So that's just the wall pigeon stretch, or the kneeling bench pigeon stretch. Again, always do both sides. And again, minimum minimum of 30-second hold, but up to as long as you can stand it. The longer you stretch, the better it will be, especially after exercise. Super important part of staying mobile in your joints. Okay, do either a hamstring or a front split stretch to get my hamstrings, okay? So if you're here and I'm just kneeling on this back leg, I'll like hinge back to like start feeling the stretch through this, and that totally works. But if you have lots of flexibility, again, you'll just kind of hinge. It's okay to do this, but I feel less stretch here because of how your hip muscles work. So I'm kind of keeping my back fairly straight, and I'm hinging and pushing my hips back to get that stretch through here. So I'm flexible enough that like that stretch really doesn't stretch my hamstrings, especially on my left side, which is much looser. But what I will do is just do a front split, okay? So when I do this front split, I don't really open up my back hip. And what I mean by that is like do this with my back hip. I don't do that because that's gonna decrease the load on my hamstring in that front leg, okay? So don't worry about balancing. If you have some yoga blocks or you like use a wall or use a couch or something like that or a chair to balance on, you don't have to worry about balancing. But keep your hips fairly forward. Shouldn't be opening up that much. Again, I like to hinge instead of like roll. When I do this, I feel a decrease of stretch in my hamstring when I bend my lower back. So I keep it here and I feel way more of an intense stretch. And again, depending on your flexibility, this is a great stretch. But again, don't hold for just a few seconds. If you've gone too far into it and you can only hold for a few seconds, you didn't get any benefit out of that stretch. And you know, you probably just hurt yourself, right? So make sure that it's a level that works for you. So anywhere from like this kneeling kind of hinge back, if you feel like you're really tight, that's a great stretch, right? And then of course, always do both sides. So you'll see flexibility, especially for a martial artist or someone who just works out dynamically and quite a lot. Flexibility is very important. Keep your joints and muscles working properly. So yeah, feel free to put your hands on the ground. It's not really a balance exercise. You're trying to get as good of a stretch as possible. But the more you can like lower your chest toward your leg without bending your back, the better stretch you will get here. Okay. Body, we're kind of moving into the back now. So I like this Bretzel stretch. I feel like if you look at it from this angle, it's a lot easier to get. So look, my leg's like this. I'm gonna weave my one leg toward my opposite hand under my other leg. Yeah, and then I'm gonna wrap my opposite hand around that top leg up behind the hamstring above the knee. And then I'm just gonna pull everything to the ground. And again, let gravity do the work. I'm not gonna force anything. So as I exhale and relax and breathe out, gravity will kind of like do the work as my muscles loosen. So I call this the Bretzel. It's like a bro pretzel. Yeah, pretty awesome. So, but great for your kind of hip lower back connection. It also, I like this variation because I'm grabbing that under, and so it's stretching my quad hip flexor as well. So I feel like this is a really good psoas stretch that maybe a lot of people don't think of it as, but the psoas again attaches in your lumbar vertebrae and runs through your pelvis and attaches in the front of your femur. So it's a really dynamic muscle and it requires a lot of stretching, because if that gets tight, you will injure your lower back / your hips. Yeah, the fronts of your hips. So very important to get stretches that affect that. So always slowly come out of these lower back stretches because the lumbar muscles are very dense. So you don't want to snap in and out of things. Again, always doing the other side. So I just grab my opposite foot underneath my top leg and then wrap my opposite hand around my hamstring just above my knee. Again, letting gravity do the work. I'm kind of pulling back, you see, with this hand to kind of get that hip flexor or quad involved. And again, just take your time. I'm not forcing it. I'm letting gravity do the work as my muscles loosen over time. And I'm just kind of going through these fast, but if I had a really hard workout or a really hard training session, I would, I'd stretch for a good 15, 20, 30 minutes, just depending on how much I feel like I needed, or how much time I had available. But I'd say 10 minutes is probably your minimum stretch time after like a hard workout. If you're just beginning exercise, you should be stretching for a longer period of time because your muscles are still adapting to it. But anyway, the Bretzel, really good for that kind of hip lower back connection. So again, slowly come out of it. So in this sitting position, I'm just gonna fold one leg over here. And then I'm gonna reach behind me with that same arm and leg, and then put my opposite tricep on the top of my thigh near my knee. And I'm pushing my arm against my thigh to create this rotation. And I wanna try to look over my shoulder. I feel like if you're really tired, this is a hard one. I always do that toward the end because it's hard to breathe here because you're kind of like twisting and compressing your lungs. So make sure you're cooled down a little bit so this doesn't feel like torture. But again, I'm pressing here on my thigh with my tricep to create this rotation, and I'm looking over my shoulder here. Yeah. Again, I'll do the other side. So just cross one leg over the top, and then your opposite arm, tricep to that thigh, and then I'm pushing with my tricep to rotate. And I feel this all the way from my lower back all the way up into my mid back. So great spinal rotation stretch. It's gonna keep your spine healthy, all those muscles nice and loose. Especially if you're striking martial artist, like the rotation of your torso through your spine is ultra important, and it will get tightened up if you don't stay flexible. And then you won't be able to generate as much force with like a stiff spine. So flexibility creates power production. I like this chest stretch on the floor. I feel like I get the best stretch. I've done standing variations up against a wall, and those feel okay, or in like a door jamb, but I like this one the most because I think gravity is doing the work instead of me having to press into like a wall or something. So look, I'm kind of in this like T shape. My elbow is in line with my shoulder. Very important because I'm just misaligning everything if my elbow's above my shoulder or my elbow's below my shoulder. You still might feel some kind of a stretch, and it doesn't have to be perfect. A little above or a little below, you'll still feel the stretch, that's fine, but think elbow in line with shoulder, okay? So then my opposite hand is just gonna go into like a push-up position, and I'm gonna take that same side hand that's in the push-up position, that leg, and just cross it over. So what I'm doing is like creating a stretch in this part of my chest of that arm that's on the ground, the hand and elbow that's on the ground. So I'm pressing away, and I'm like reaching with this opposite leg, and then I'll just rest my head because I feel a really good chest stretch, and I'm getting some rotator cuff muscles stretched out, so I feel it through my shoulder as well. But just stay here and breathe. Again, let gravity do the work. That's why I like this one. I'm kind of pressing into the ground like I'm doing a one-arm push-up here, and that's creating more tension. And again, you can kind of come out of it and play with the angle if you feel like you can get more stretch out of it. Again, a little above the shoulder with the elbow or a little below, you're going to get different muscle fibers, and it's all good. You just like doing this, like there's no stretch, right? Doing this way down here, there's no stretch. So it needs to be somewhere close to elbow in line with shoulder. And again, always do the opposite side. So I'll kind of come back to this T shape position and then go to that single arm push-up. Same side hand as the push-up side, and I'll kind of press this against the ground as I reach with that foot, and I really feel a stretch through that left pec now. And again, I'll just kind of relax my head once I get to a position where I feel like there's a good stretch. I sit on my heels for my lat stretch, and I'm just gonna like reach out. Just gonna reach out here. So then what I do, and I'm reaching with my fingertips without coming up off my heels, keep my butt on my heels or close to them. So I already feel a stretch in my lats right now. But then what I'm going to do is crawl to one side until I feel an increased stretch on this side, okay? And then once I feel that increased stretch, I'm going to get my hips up off my heels and like lean into this side of the shoulder as I continue reaching. And I feel my whole lat, like from my upper tricep all the way through my shoulder complex and down into my lower ribs, my lat getting stretched out. So kind of applying pressure toward that shoulder and just stay there. And again, minimum 30-second hold. So when I come out of this, I'll just sit back, come back to the middle, kind of reach again, and then I'm crawling until I feel that left lat begin to stretch out, and then I'm gonna lean into that. Yeah, that one's really tight. So again, a really great lat stretch, very simple to do because you don't need any equipment or anything. I'm gonna show you one standing lat stretch. So again, after a minimum amount of time, or as much time as you can stand in there. So here, I'll just go here. I'm gonna push my butt away from my hands. So I'm like leaning back, and what I'll do is lean into this side of the side I'm grabbing, and then kind of arch up my mid back, and I really feel that stretch through here. So if you don't want to be on the ground, or you didn't really feel a good stretch in that variation, the standing lat stretch is really good. But again, I'll push my hips away, I'll lean into that shoulder of the hand that's holding the pole, and then I'm going to arch my mid back through my shoulder blades, and that increases the stretch here. So good lat stretch. I'll just sit or stand, and I'm just going to pull here, and you can play with the chin, so the angle of the chin, it doesn't have to be completely lateral. So but just kind of slowly move, and I'm applying pressure with my hand to pull my head, and I'm feeling this way down in like my mid traps. So this is just a good overall neck stretch. It will help keep your shoulders loose, keep your neck loose, and I'm feeling this all through my levator scapula, my traps, because I'm kind of reaching down with my non-action arm, right? So I'm getting a really good neck stretch here. You know, you can even come back a little and get your sternocleidomastoid if the front of your neck is feeling really tight. Super simple stretch. Again, I'm just gonna grab the opposite side of my head and just kind of pull. Again, I'll hold in one position if I feel like that's really tight here, my levator scapula or my traps. Maybe sit on one hand or grab your ankle with one, and so you're kind of extending your upper trap here, and then you can play around. Just be careful and move slowly so you're not straining your neck when you start pulling on it. So as I move to positions, I'll kind of relieve tension, move to a different position, and then yeah. And you can even go as far as like apply forward. Just don't apply so much pressure that you feel like you're straining something. You want to feel a stretch, not a strain. Yeah, my left levator scapula is super tight. Anyway, that's kind of a general total body stretch. Make sure you stretch after you work out or after you get warm.